This is the Untold Italy travel podcast, and you're listening to episode number 217.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week, your host, Katy Clarke, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Buongiorno, everyone. Here I am, freshly back from a whirlwind trip to Italy where I spent some time in Rome, Bologna and Venice, checking in on what's happening that's new and exciting in those places, catching up with the Untold Italy team and meeting with some of our amazing partners. In case you don't follow us on our social media, we also had an exciting encounter on my last day in Rome. There we were with our friends from Live Tours, casually wandering past the Pantheon, then who should walk by but travel legend Rick Steves. Of course, we had to get a selfie. Now, if you're not familiar with Rick, he's best known in the United States and has almost single-handedly changed the way Americans travel to Europe via his books, audio guides and tours. And of course, his multimedia approach to travel is an inspiration to me and the Untold Italy team and what we're trying to do here at Untold Italy. So that was really a bit of a thrill, I have to say, and we caught him casually strolling by the Pantheon and had to catch up because he's quite a tall guy. Anyway, bumping into celebrities is not something that regularly happens to me in Rome, but it certainly added to an exciting couple of weeks. On the way home to Australia, I started reflecting on my trip and realised that while I've been to Rome countless times, there are some experiences that I seek out every time I'm there that I wanted to share with you because these are the ones that make me know that I'm in Rome and there's something about them that makes you feel special and that you're part of the eternal city. These are those quintessentially Roman things to do that you can only experience in the Eternal City, and I can tell you that while some of them are ancient, they never get old. Not to me anyway. And by the way, lots of them are free or don't cost much money at all. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you my top 5 experiences to have in Rome. And the first one is that I love to walk in history. I don't know about you, but it's incredible to me that I've walked in the footsteps of some of the greatest rulers our planet has ever seen and stood on the sites of world-changing events. I love to simply walk around in Rome and look at the buildings around me that have been adapted over centuries and absorbed into the modern city. Romans are pretty chill about this and don't seem to notice how over 2,000 or 3,000 years of history is simply at their fingertips, but I find it amazing. One of my favourite places to wander around in Rome is the Jewish ghetto or Jewish district, where ancient temples coexist with Renaissance palaces and fountains and medieval streets. Layers of history are everywhere in this area, including sombre and poignant reminders of the city's fascist past, with brass stumbling stone markers outside the houses where victims of the Holocaust once chose to live. Just a short stroll away, you'll find Torre del Lago Argentina, where Julius Caesar was assassinated on the 15th of March in 44 BC. This site has traditionally been a cat refuge, but was recently reopened to the public after careful restoration. It's a really interesting and unique site, and I just love the way Romans just casually stroll past it and just go about their way. But it's obviously one of the places that has seen some of the major events in history. Sometimes I do a walk around the major sites of Rome, which can take between an hour and 2 hours, depending on how many stops you make for photos and or coffee and how close you want to get to the Colosseum. There's nothing that quite reminds you that you're in Rome than a stroll by the Trevi Fountain or admiring the view from the top of the Spanish Steps. All of this walking, of course, means that you're bound to get hungry. So the next item on my list is, of course, food-related. And what I also love to do in Rome is to devour the Roman pasta. You have to order traditional Roman pasta when in Rome. Nowhere in Italy or the world can you find a better carbonara, cacio e pepe, alla gricia or amatriciana than in Rome. So I'll always order a plate of at least one of these when I'm in the city. After all, this is a city where lives have been dedicated to making the perfect carbonara. And you really won't get the real deal anywhere else in Italy, as these are the traditional local pasta dishes from Rome. I did have some delicious ragu with tagliatelle in Bologna and an amazing squid ink pasta in Venice. But when in Rome, as they say, stick to the local dishes, which are the ones they do best. More pecorino cheese, all the guanciale. It really is incredibly delicious. Now, this time I was there, artichokes were in season. Hooray! They are so amazingly delicious. So I had a very tasty version of the alla gricia pasta, which is like cacio e pepe, so it's like with cheese and pepper, but also with the cured, cooked off pork cheek jowl, which doesn't sound very tasty, but it's basically bacon and it's really, really good. So this alla gricia was made with artichokes, which were incredible. And spring is an amazing time to visit Italy if you like artichokes. They were everywhere, on market stalls, menus, and as decorations in shops and restaurants. Artichokes come fried or braised or added to pasta as I had them. And don't stop, just keep ordering the artichokes because they're vegetables and so they're good for you, right? Now, if you want to learn more about the traditional pasta dishes of Rome, you can listen to our episodes on that very topic. They are episodes 181 and 182 with our good friend Nazim from Full Belly Tours. Definitely worth a listen if you want all the best tips on where to eat the best versions of these pastas. I had the artichoke alla gricia at Da Felice in Testaccio, who are a solid pick for a good version of any of those pasta dishes. Most people will not stay in that area, so you'll need to get a taxi there, but it's worth the effort. Now, the next thing on my list, and one of those things that I have to do every time I'm in Rome, is to go and enjoy the views. And I really like to seek out just something different or a little different angle when I'm in the Eternal City. There's really nothing like gazing out over the rooftops of Rome to cement that wonderful feeling that you're in one of the world's most amazing cities. There's a certain shimmery haze that settles over the city in the sunlight, especially at dawn and dusk, that gives it an ethereal glow, and then you really know that you're in Roma. Some of the views I enjoyed this time were over the Tiber River and Trastevere from my hotel. We also had a cheeky rooftop work lunch close to the Pantheon with a couple of spritzers. And a very special treat from the balcony at the Vatican Museums during a very special early morning tour with Live Tours, which if you got our newsletter recently, you will have heard all about it. But basically this tour is very exclusive and goes in the early morning and enables you to have these unique experiences like standing on the balcony and enjoying a view without crowds of people all around you. We'll put a link to that tour into the show notes because it really was quite special. And if you'd like to sign up to our newsletter, we'll put a link to that too. We send out a weekly tips and ideas for your travels in Italy, and sometimes we have some extra discounts for subscribers as well, and all the latest news that we can't always include in the podcast. Now, there are so many beautiful and unique angles to enjoy the city of Rome that it would be a shame to keep your feet at ground level all the time. Definitely make sure you include some epic Roman views in your plans when you visit. Some of my favourite places that I didn't get to go to this time are the views from Piazza Venezia. And you can go to the very top of the big building, the big white building that you can't miss in the centre of town on an elevator for a fee and gaze all across the city. As this wedding cake building, as it's generally known, sits on the edge of the Roman Forum, it's in the prime position to capture so many iconic sites, including the Colosseum. But if you're happy simply gazing over the Roman Forum back towards the world's most famous arena, I can recommend the cafe at the back of the building. Perfect for a sunset aperitivo. Now, the next thing I always do when I'm in Rome is I do a little bit of shopping. I know a lot of you like to travel light, as instructed by our friend Rick Steves, who I mentioned earlier. However, I am not one of those people, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I like to save some room in my luggage and maybe even sometimes get a little extra bag because there are too many fantastic treats to enjoy and bring back home from Rome that, yes, I am often forced to purchase yet another hold-all to get it back home. So some of the things I like to buy in Rome include handmade jewellery, unique pieces that you won't find anywhere else, beautiful antique jewelry to modern pieces that are inspired by maybe something from the Renaissance. And you can find so many gorgeous little shops in the centre of Rome. A really nice street to go down is Via Condotti, and you will find lots of little cute little shops to buy those special treats. Now, of course, our family loves pistachio paste, which is like Nutella, but it's green per the nut, and it's a little bit more complex in flavour, but is absolutely delicious. And there's always an order for a big jar of that when I'm in Rome because you can't really get it. You can get some versions, but the really nice brands are not available outside of Italy. So you need to hot-foot it over to Italy in Ostiense or the food court at the Rinascente department store to buy your jar of pistachio paste. Actually, the Rinascente department store also has an amazing rooftop view from its cafe up there, which is worthwhile having a stop at. Sometimes I think in summer you would definitely need to book there, so get online there to do that. And they also have lots of other luxury food items like truffle salt, which is really delicious, sprinkled on an omelette, and other Italian delicacies. So definitely go and seek out jewelry, food. There's also artwork and beautiful shoes. Italian fashion is really lovely as well. And even if you really like the usual kind of brands like, say, Gucci or Prada, you know what? In Italy, they have different things there. So I don't want to tempt you too much, but it's worth having a look because they do stock different things in different markets. And I always like to, have a little treat from Rome when I go home. But it's not all about consuming. The last thing I like to do every single time I'm in Rome, and I don't feel like I've been in Rome if I haven't done this, is to pay my respects to the Pantheon. And I always drop by there to make sure it's still standing because I love this ancient building that stood in place for over 2,000 years, presiding over emperors, popes, invasions, and celebrations. The Pantheon's dome has inspired countless buildings around the world, from the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence to the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. And of course, the Pantheon in Paris is also inspired by this ancient wonder of Rome. And it also never fails to inspire me. Even if I take a casual stroll past, I'll stop for a few moments and soak up the beauty of this incredible monument in the very heart of the city, because to me, it represents Rome more than the Trevi Fountain or the Colosseum. It's my North Star in Rome, and no matter how big the crowd is in the Piazza della Rotunda outside its impressive portico, the Pantheon stands serene among the hubbub, waiting for the next instalment of the city's story. And that, my friends, is how I know that I've been in Rome. Walking through history, delicious pasta, views of the city rooftops, a spot of Roman shopping, and a pass by the Pantheon. Now, there are not too many details from this short and sweet episode about Rome this week, but if you'd like to learn more about the Vatican tour I was lucky to go on and the names and shops of the restaurants and shops I mentioned, head on over to our website show notes at untolditaly.com/217 for episode 217. You will also be very lucky to see a copy of the selfie that we took with Rick Steves in the centre of Rome also. Grazie mille. Thank to all our wonderful listeners for your ongoing support of Untold Italy. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, that it would be wonderful if you gave us a rating or review in your favourite podcast app. And that way we can reach more Italy-loving travellers just like you. By the way, if you listen on Spotify, you can also leave comments on each episodes, and I really love reading all of those. Unfortunately, Spotify haven't worked out a way for podcasters to reply to questions on that function yet, but we're pushing for it. Next week on Untold Italy, we'll delve into another aspect of travelling in this beautiful country. But until then, it's ciao for now.
The Untold Italy podcast is an independent production. Podcast editing, audio production, and website development by Mark Hatter. Production assistance and content writing by the other Katy, Clarke. Yes, there are two of us. For more information about Untold Italy, please visit untolditaly.com.